Hey everyone, Josh here. So a couple months ago, we did a video with this Mark IV BEW on cheap power adders. What did like a tuning box, resistor mod, and then we did some tunes. So one of the budget tunes was a DIY tune, like one I wrote myself. And then we did a Malone tune that was, I bought the ECU separate, so I don't know its back history. And then I also did Techmetronics 2 files on it. So we kind of did a comparison. So I had a couple questions, or a couple people asked on how to write your own tune. So this is what this video is going to be. You obviously clicked on the title. So with that being said, I'm not a tuner. I know just enough to get myself in trouble. So by no means use the values that I have in here. I'm just kind of comparing what I did versus what was stock and kind of my thought process behind it. So this is I'm going to say a budget, because you still need to buy the flashing tool. You're going to need software, not real expensive, but it's not cheap to do. Other issue is it's very time intensive. So what you put in is what you're going to get out. If you're doing this to save money, I hope your time is worth $0, because you're going to have a pile of time into it. Basically, this is going to be a very basic comparison. I kind of block raise some things, a little bit more boost, a little bit more fuel, a little bit more timing. So just kind of stuff, it's pretty generic. So we're going to go over tools you need, some software. Obviously you need a laptop, and then you need a BEW car. Works for the PD and the PD engines, like BEW and the BHW as well. They're all EDC 16s here in North America. So besides having a PD car, you're probably not a terrible idea to get a spare ECU. So the BEW, it's an EDC 16U31. So in case you end up bricking it, depending on what you're using to flash it, if you have a spare one, you can delete the immobilizer, which I've already done a video on a few years ago. So then you can have a spare ECU to play around with, and then if things go bad, you still have your stock one, put it back in, and you can still get to work. You also, depending on how far you want to push it, you might be into turbos and engines and stuff like that. So that's kind of the fun part of doing your own tuning. So then after you have your car, you're ready to tune, you're going to need your Windows laptop, and then we're going to need a flashing device. So this is where it kind of gets iffy. Legit flashing devices are usually quite expensive. You have subscriptions, credits. It's not exactly cheap for a beginner. So you can get pirated versions. So depending on your morals, I guess it is what it is. So MPPS 13 or I think 18, I think is what some people use. KESV2 you can get as well. So that's just your pass through. You plug it into your OBD and then plug it into your laptop. It'll come with software. That's how you can get the files moved around. And then the next thing is going to be the software on your laptop to actually edit these files. So as far as editing these files, WinOS is going to be the go-to. The issue is it's quite expensive. You can obviously get sponsored knockoff versions as well. But the issue with that is it's going to be a blank file, a bunch of numbers, letters. You're not going to know what to do with it. You only need to buy or find a map pack for your car yet too. You can obviously find the maps yourself, but you'll be days doing that. I did it with my V10. It's a lot of work. So another option would be EDC Master HP. So this is for 16s, EDC 16 and 17. So it's got a free demo for 90 days or maybe 30 days. And then to renew your license, it's like 10 euros for a month or something. So for a DIY, $10, you cannot beat it. So we're going to be using EDC Master because it finds all the maps for you. So it's quick and easy, one and done, load the file in and away you go. Okay, so you've got the software, you got the hardware you need. So the next part's going to be up to you, and that's going to be editing it and knowing what to edit and how. So there's a lot of online help forums, I guess. So ECU Connections, ECU Edit, and MHH Auto. They're all fairly helpful forums, I guess. So on there you got to use what your ECU is. You're not going to just search BEW. You got to look up the EDC 16 U31 which is that. So depending on what ECU you're editing, you're going to need to know that. The other one is going to be VAG ECU Map. He's on YouTube. He's also got I think a website or something. So he's got videos. It's using WinOS, but it's finding all the maps that you need and also editing it and seeing why you would edit. So he's got a very, very thorough bunch of videos on it. So I would definitely check that out if you've got a day to listen to them and figure out kind of the backstory of it. But now we're gonna skip. We're gonna put it to laptop view here and go over my file. Okay, so we've got a few. We've got two files here. So edited file and OEM file. So these are all the maps that we can look at. And these are anything with the red highlights are the ones that I had edited here. So let's get started. So first off, we're gonna start off with turbo boost. So black is modified, white is stock. So this is boost in millibars, and then on the left hand is RPM, and the top is milligrams per stroke of fuel. So originally you can see it's 2050 millibar. So you would minus at sea level about 1,000 millibars. So boost would be 1050, which is around 14-15 psi. So we're gonna bump that up to 2250, which is about 18 psi. So you can kind of edit it in there, you kind of smooth it in there nicely. I kept it somewhat similar to what the factory looked like, just upped it a bit and then smoothed it out, so it wasn't really rocket science. So extra 2, 3, 4 psi. Now we need to edit some limiters. So we've got turbo boost. So now we're gonna do turbo boost limiter. I just kind of basically the same thing, 20, whatever was 2050, put it to 2250, and then just kind of smooth it out a little bit. And then the other thing we're gonna have to worry about is the single value boost limiter. So that's basically what is it gonna hit, when's it going to hit limp mode. So you can see stock was 2350. Since I went up 200 millibars, that's why I put the single value boost limiter up. So again, not really rocket science. So once we got that done, you can edit the N75. So I've done it before where I did the deep idle mod. That's what it was. So you can change depending on basically your fueling and the RPM. You can change how open your vanes are. So obviously the higher the number, the more closed they are. One other thing you're going to notice is the stock is going to be quite closed in this area, and I think part of that has to do with EGR. So if you can build higher pressure before the turbo, it's easier to push EGR into the intake. So these are going to be 70 or 80 from stock, or 80. So you can open it up a little bit and kind of just, you're gonna have to do a bit of logging, kind of play around with those numbers and see. You'll notice if you have an EGR delete and you're driving down the road, you're gonna notice the requested and the actual boost. The requested is going to be quite a bit lower than the actual, and it's going to be always building higher boosts. You have higher drive pressure, and obviously the engine's going to be working harder to get the exhaust out. So I don't know how big of a difference it makes, but it made sense to me to edit it. So you can do your own research on that. So we got more air into there. So now we're gonna have to do more fuel. So that's where the driver's wish comes into play here. So this is a bit interesting. So EDC 16, they use not actual fueling, they use torque. So what we're seeing is Newton meters of torque basically. So you can up it a bit. So that, again, RPM here, and then this is throttle position. So 185, 65, and it goes down. So the more torque you have down low, the quicker it's going to feel. Kind of like those pedal commanders and stuff like that, where basically they're going to say you might be inputting 45%, but the pedal commander is going to change it so it's actually ECU thinks you're putting 65, so it's going to feel a whole lot more power down low, but then you're going to kind of catch a bit of a flat spot. Obviously you can't go past 100, so you got to kind of edit that a little bit. So you can see I kind of edited this column here a bit. Actually I did all of them a little bit, but I didn't do a whole lot of fueling on this one. Same thing, you gotta go through. So we've got 2, 4, 6, 7 driver's wishes. So you can edit the fueling, you can add more fuel. down low, up top, wherever you want. So I think this tune was lacking a fair bit of fuel. You'll notice in the acceleration part that it wasn't real fast, but it was a bit better on fuel. But so since that's calculated in torque in Newton meters, so if you want to kind of know roughly fuel, there's a map down here, IQ to Newton meter conversion. So 336 Newton meters, you're going to be getting, well, basically 56 milligrams per stroke of fuel. Okay, so I'm going to add this here. So with my tune, I was really fuel limited. Like, I think there was a lot more on the table. I could have added a lot more fuel. So I just pulled up driver's wish here. So we're at 100% normal RPM. We were in like that 340, even less, 300 or so. So I'm not sure what the limit for the PD injectors are. Like, I thought when I did my V10, I thought they said it was around 70 milligrams per stroke, but I don't know for sure. So the way you could change that with the ALHs, you didn't have to worry about this IQ, so injection quantity to torque conversion. It was just basically on the map, you could just put, instead of being 45 milligrams per stroke, you want 55. So on here, 336 is basically what it's saying is our max torque, and then it was saying max fueling was 5440. So I don't know what the correct calculation would be, but you could click access, add new value. So you could do 375, change value, and then basically the same thing, kind of smooth that out over here. And then this one, highlight it, and then you could basically say bulk raise 10 milligrams per stroke. So now at 375, we're now getting 65 milligrams per stroke of fuel. And then you could go back to your driver's wish here at 100, same kind of thing. You could in this area, you could bump that up to that 375 range. So the ECU, it can do a certain amount of extrapolation. They can basically kind of fill in the blanks in between, but you kind of want to have a rough idea of what your fueling is going to be. So when you do that that IQ to Newton meters conversion, you kind of want to have it close to where you're expecting your fueling to be. So I'm not sure the correct way to do this. Obviously I didn't do this, but this is one way to get more fueling in there yet as well. So again, that's something you kind of play with. ECU is going to get to a point where it's not going to be happy, and you know you kind of hit your limit there. So I feel like I could have definitely added a lot more fuel. It was definitely power lacking. So if I was to play around with this again, I would definitely up this, I don't know, say 375 or 400, and then smooth this out a bit. And same thing, try that 65 milligrams per stroke, or maybe try 70, see if it'll take it. But anyways, so that was driver's wish. So you can add more fuel, add it more down low, whatever you want to do. Up next, so you got EGR. So as you can see, I didn't edit this itself. So 850, so this is going to be mass airflow. So 850 is going to be 100% fresh air, and these numbers down here is going to be fresh air, but there's going to be more and more EGR. So say roughly idle, which is about 924 in this range, so about half of it's EGR and half it's fresh air. So if you want to keep EGR intact but maybe shut it down a little bit, you can edit these a bit. Closer to 850 is going to be more fresh air. And then you can see down here after 3500 RPM, it's stuck at 850. So anything past that, it's not putting any EGR in. So if you want to delete it, there's another way to do that. So the EGR hysteresis, I don't know how you want to say that. You basically, you'll blank that out. So I did the second and 2, 4, 5th one. I don't remember the reasoning why, but there was something to do with shutting off the EGR. That's how you would edit it. It was the second and the 5th, you would 0. These other ones, I don't think they're really gonna say anything special. And what did they look like originally? Yeah, I'm not quite sure what's going on there, so I just zeroed it all out. So again, I'm not an expert at this, but it's been a while since I've made this map. But yeah, the second and the fifth one, if you zero it out, EGR is going to be shut off all the time. So that's taking care of driver's wish, that's taking care of boost and EGR. Map sensor, you're not going to touch it. That's going to stay how it is. So if you are putting a 4-bar, 3-bar map sensor, you have to edit these numbers. But obviously this is just going to be a budget stock car tune, so we're not touching that. Up next is going to be torque limiter. So this is going to depend on your clutch. I forget which file I had it, but 4th and 5th gear, usually about the 2500 range, maybe the 2250, the clutch would start slipping. So you could edit this back down a little bit. Obviously you lose a little bit of fueling, a little bit of power. Stock was, so there you go. So we're 275 is the max, so we upped it. So basically it's getting rid of the torque limiter. So again, that kind of depends on your clutch. IQ limit by MAF. So this is going to be injection quantity depending on how much air you have. So basically it's a smoke switch basically. So you need to make sure you're running nice and clean. So again, 1,000 milligrams per stroke from the MAF. We were seeing max about 48. I upped it to 55.6, I think was the max. And again, there was no smoke on it, so it can go higher yet. Lambda calculations, I don't remember editing it, and I don't know why it's saying it's edited. So I'm fairly certain IQ limit by MAF and torque limiter are going to be our main limiters for fueling. So I don't know if I would touch these Lambda calculations at all. So we've got more air, fuel, driver's wish. You've kind of edited that how you want it. So now the part that I'm really not going to have an answer for you on how to do it is going to be start of injection. So we've got a few things to look at. So SOI selector. So depending on temperature of the coolant, it's going to depend on which map it's going to touch. So 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and then you got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, or the first one's 0. So depending on basically coolant temperature, it's going to edit the start of injection. So usually the 7, 8, 9 will be the main ones you want to touch, but depending on how deep you want to get into it, you should probably edit them all. SOI limiter, so start of injection limiter. So again, it's just trying to make sure it doesn't get too advanced. So same thing, I didn't touch any of that. We'll go over injection here in a minute, but we're only going to do single value rev limiter. So 5,300 RPM is max it'll go. Again, I didn't touch that. I don't want any more RPM. So now this is where it's going to get pretty deep, and this is where I recommend you should watch other videos. So we're doing injection duration, so how long it's going to be injecting for. Again, I didn't touch these, I just touched the start of injection, so it's a bit of a sloppy way to do it, but it's a budget one, depends on how much time you want to put into it. So let's look at the last one here. So this should be the up to temp one. And then we will open start of injection, same thing, the last one there. So depending on what you want to do, you can kind of look. So again, we've got RPM, and up here we have injection quantity as well. So start of injection, so really you got two things that they're kind of looking for. So the very first one, probably the most important one, is going to be emissions. So if we look at our if you look at the EGR maps, especially in this area, the 15 milligrams up to say 35, and same thing in that cruising range of 15 to 2750, that's where it's going to spend a lot of its time here. And you can see a lot of it's fairly retarded timing. And you're also going to see a fair bit of EGR in that range, that cruising RPM. So timing, the more advanced it's going to be, to a certain degree, the more power, the more efficient it's going to be, but it's also going to increase the NOx output. So with these retarded timing, you can see it's trying to reduce the NOx output. Same thing with EGR, that's what it's doing, is reducing NOx output, but it's also kind of hurting fuel efficiency. So you can kind of smooth things out here. This isn't the right way to do it, and I'm not sure you're going to find end all be all, this is what it should be. Basically, you need to be looking at injection duration. You're going to be seeing when injection starts and when it's going to end. If you start too early, it's going to be basically the inject it, it's going to be not exploding, but the fuel is going to ignite before the piston's coming up. So basically your fuel is forcing the piston back down the wrong way if it's too advanced. The reverse is true. If it's too late or retarded, it's going to be, the piston's going to be traveling down as it's starting to ignite, and you're not actually getting the power from it. It's just filling up blank space. So it's a fine line. You need to look at injection, the start of injection, the end of direct injection, and obviously the duration is the main part of that. So I didn't really do much with it. I smoothed it out a little bit here, so you can see 798, and then it jumps 15 milligrams, down to 3.7 degrees, whereas I kind of left it at 7.68. So I really edited this area right here, the 26, yeah, so it's all kind of advanced a little bit. There's no rhyme or reason to what to put it to, so that's going to be one of those things you're going to want to do research, figure out what works good, and yeah, that's all I'm going to say there. I don't really have the answer on what to put it to, and I'm not going to tell you what to put it to, because the injection, start of injection can kind of do damage. So this is a questionable map to be editing. So you can kind of see, like, so the colder ones are going to be running quite a bit more advanced, because colder air, colder fuel, it's going to take longer to ignite. That's why usually they run rough. So as it heats up, you don't need as much timing. So you can see we're at 10 degrees down here, whereas once it's warmed up, it's not quite that high. So basically all these maps, I just kind of smoothed out this main cruising area, and you can do basically whatever you think you should do. So this is going to take a bit of logging, a bit of playing around with it, and I don't have an answer for what to put it to. And then the same thing, so you can edit these bottom 3, bottom 4, the ones that you're mostly driving in, you can do them all. I'm not saying there's a right or wrong way. There's definitely a right way, and this isn't the way of doing it, but it's you can edit it the way you want it to. So then, based on your fueling, based on your boost, timing, all that stuff, they've got a power chart. So basically this is going to be, the red's going to be my edited power, and then the purple is going to be power compared to. So, well, it doesn't have a click, but we're going to say that's about 130, 140 horsepower, whereas the stock's about 105. Torque, and then torque compared. So we've got the light blue is way up here, whereas the original is down here. So we're about 250 versus 310. And then torque limiter, so that's the other thing you're going to want to be looking at to make sure that your torque limiter isn't below what you're trying to calculate out for torque. So you can see this green is the one for my edited file, the darker green was the stock, so we should be good for that. Map checker, so this is also a really nice one to kind of look at. So you can do RPM, you can see the torque limiter on what limiter is going to be affecting your power at what RPMs. So this is a quick and dirty way to see what it's at. I queued in Newton meter conversion, so this is telling you what the injection quantity is going to be at. Instead of telling you in Newton meters, it's actually going to be straight fueling. So you can kind of look and see. Okay, so looking at these here now, so we got injection duration dynamic, which I'm not sure what the difference is there. Start of injection and then end of injection. So start of injection, so let's see 2000 RPM. We're saying it's starting at 12.3 degrees before top dead center. With duration, we've got 21.4 degrees duration. So I'm not sure why this is reading 9. So it's probably supposed to be -9. So that'll be -9 or 9 degrees after top dead center. So that's how you get your 12.3 before, 9.1 after, and that's your 21 degrees of total duration. So I thought I'd seen somewhere they say roughly 10 degrees after top dead center is when you want end of injection. I don't know what the truth is to that, so you can kind of see that 1750 to, well, really 2750 in that cruising range. I'm pretty close to that mark, so I'm not sure if there's any truth to that or if that's just a wives' tale. So this is quick and easy. You don't need to do a calculator. This is nice to see where you're roughly at. Turbo boost, so that's going to be telling you what RPM you're going to be getting boost at. So 1750, we're calling for max boost, and we're running that right to, well, basically 4250, and then start tapering off. Airflow, so again, so that'll be max airflow, and then air fuel ratio. So I thought it was 18.5 is ideal. After higher than that, you're running a bit lean. So again, I could probably do more fueling in this range, and I forget, it's quite a bit lower yet. Like it's usually around the 14 or 16, I think, is when you start to see smoke. So that'd be why the tune still runs clean. But again, this is all calculated values, so it could be, yeah, your actual air fuel ratio might not be that, because you're gonna have differences in your intake, head, all that good stuff. So it looks okay to me, I guess. So that's what I did, right or wrong. That's all my maps that I edited compared to stock. Yeah, I really like this EDC Master HP file. Like, it's nice and easy to go over. You're not having to use map packs or WinOS. It's just quick and easy. And obviously it's got all the maps that you kind of need to edit it. It's got the map checker, the power chart, all that stuff's kind of cool. So again, once you're done that, you can export it off of here. And the other thing you're going to need to do is Checksum. So I just use LSuite. So basically you just pull up the file, whatever file you need, you'll do run and then save. So quick and easy. All right, so that's the end of that. So it's kind of interesting to kind of see the background on how the ECU works and how it makes things tick, I guess. So I'm hoping this video kind of helped you at least send you in the right way if you wanted to tune it yourself, to kind of do a bit more research where to look and how to get the information, because it's out there. It's just kind of tricky to find and it takes a bit of time. So I definitely, especially with the BEWs, these older PDs, even the ALHs, you can't use the same programs. There's other programs that'll work, but same kind of thing. They're nice, simple setups. Cars they used to be a dime a dozen, so you could, if you had a failure, if you melted a piston, blowing turbos, stuff like that, it's not the end of the world on these cars. It's not like it's a brand new car where you have a $2,000 or $3,000 turbo you're gonna have to replace. So yeah, I just kind of find it interesting. I'll maybe do an ALH one in the future if this video does okay, and then I'd like to play around with the common rail a little bit. I've got a spare ECU sitting over here somewhere, so one of these days I'll dig into it and kind of play around with it a bit. So thanks for watching, and hope you enjoyed the video.